Muscle cars. You love them, I love them, but let's face it, it's a bit of a dying breed. An entire genre of cars that 15 years ago seemed so hot and so booming now barely exists. So today we're going to go almost 15 years back in time to 2012 to see kind of where muscle cars were at then, see where they're at now, and see, well, how to fix it. Because one of the few muscle cars I would argue still exists is the Ford Mustang. Now, as much as the Ford Mustang is known to be one of the icon muscle cars, 2024 was actually the worst sales ever for the Mustang Coupe. I say coupe because the EV still exists, and I'm not counting its sales with that. But actually, the Mach-E actually outsold the Mustang Coupe in 2024. So the big question is, how do we fix this? And we'll get to that question, but for now, let's get right into it. It's 2012, we just lost Pontiac, but the muscle car is still looking pretty good. Simply starting with Ford, we still have the 5-liter Mustang GT, the Boss 302, GT500, the Shelby GT350, some badass Super Snakes, and the Ford Falcon. From Chevy, the Camaro recently came out, we now have the ZL1, and we're on to the C6 Corvette. Holden's still going strong in Australia, and we now have the CTS-V with the supercharged 6.2-liter V8. Dodge now has the 392 Challenger, the 392 Charger. We're kind of in the middle of a Viper period. We know there's a new one coming up. I'm not saying the Viper's a muscle car, I'm just saying kind of where America's at. But also, I need to look at the Germans, because despite the muscle car is known to be American, I don't think America exclusively makes the muscle car. So from Germany, Audi has their 5 Series out, making the S5 and now the RS5. BMW makes a V8 M3 and now a V8 M5. And Mercedes still makes the incredible 6.2-liter C63 AMG. Needless to say, in 2012, muscle cars were hot. A lot of these brands were kind of riding on this and riding on the ongoing wave of the retro throwback. Which, yes, the retro throwback had some failures in it, no doubt, but it did have some incredible cars. And despite looking at 2012, a lot of these cars kind of got better through time. Just a couple years after that, we got the Hellcats, we got the C7 Corvette, the GT500 got better, the Mustang itself got better on all fronts. And Chevy brought back the Z28 as kind of the track weapon Camaro. So the big question is, what happened? Well, despite the 6th gen Camaro was generally really good, Chevy kind of put a facelift on it, which really hurt sales. It ended up killing the Camaro ultimately. I'm not calling the Corvette a muscle car, but it does kind of fit into the same family, and the C8 Corvette is definitely not a muscle car. Depending on who you ask, it falls into the realm of sports car or supercar. I actually kind of made a whole video talking about that. Nonetheless, it's no longer in this family. Ford Falcon's gone, Holden as a company is gone, the Viper is gone, the Charger does exist, but it's EV only at the moment, so I'm not counting it. The C63 AMG is a 4-cylinder, the S5 is a 6-cylinder, the M3 is a straight 6, and the M5 is an absolute yacht, so I'm not counting them. And the CTS-V evolved into the CT5 Blackwing, which brings us to 2025. Despite we still do have the Mustang, as I mentioned earlier, the Mustang had its worst sale year ever in its north of 60 years in existence. 2024 was the worst sales ever, at somewhere a bit over 47,000 cars sold, which is unfortunate because despite the new Mustang, the S650 is very much a revised S550 platform. It is a generally better car. Everything's more polished, it has more features, and it's making over like 480 horsepower. And we still do have the 4-cylinder, but as I mentioned, a 480-ish horsepower GT, 500 horsepower Dark Horse, and that Nürburgring killer, the GTD. But that's it. You might want to argue, well, the Dodge Charger still exists. And you know what? You're right. The Dodge Charger does still exist. And you know what? It looks good. I do generally like how the new Dodge Charger looks. But let's be completely real. Bringing in fake V8 exhaust tone isn't enough to make it a muscle car. And not being able to do burnouts or donuts makes it very not Dodge. Now, due to the bad sales of the new Charger, Dodge has actually said that the V8 production will restart in August this year. So for 2026, we will get the 5.764 and Hellcat engine back into the Dodge Charger. I've also even heard rumblings of a new Challenger coming out, but we'll see. Also, I just need to ask, has anyone actually seen the new Charger on the road? I've seen one new Charger at a dealership, and that's it. I'm just curious. So the Charger's not selling, and the Mustang's not doing that well. Let's be real, the muscle car is in a bad spot right now. So Why isn't it working? A lot of these cars kind of went off my personal list due to just, well, innovation, which in my mind brought them farther away from what a muscle car is, and also price. One of the beauties of muscle cars is that they're always kind of this affordable, fun, powerful option. Back in 2004, you get into a Mustang GT with options for like under $30,000. And I get it. Everything is simply more expensive now. Standards are way higher now than they were 20 years ago, and there's just more tech now. But in the grand scheme of things, that's made a Mustang $70,000 to $80,000 after options, after taxes, and the Charger's not that different. You can find new Chargers like $80,000, $90,000, at least in Canada. Like, they are not cheap cars. And with that, I need to go look at the company Slate. Hear me out. So Slate is going to be a new EV truck brand that's funded by Jeff Bezos, coming from America. And their big thing is these things are starting at like $27,000, which with EV rebates could bring it down to 20 grand, which I think there is a market for, but in the grand scheme of things is not really what people are looking at. But I do think companies should take note of that, because despite I do think that's not the right way for an entire car brand to go, especially when you're selling to the general public, I do think it's actually kind of inspiring for brands like Ford and Dodge. Because I think primarily with Ford, the way it could save the Mustang sales is kind of go back to how it started. One of the big things that made the Mustang cool and special was options. You could option everything for that car. And yes, you still can, but hear me out. So right now they offer the base, the GT, the Dark Horse, and the GTD. Now let's just say they offered one more option that was base custom. So let's say with base custom, you just start with a blank canvas of a Mustang. There's nothing there. And you spec what you want to spec in. So if you want to go on there and have a Mustang with cloth seats, rear seat delete, and a Dark Horse V8 with a manual transmission, and that's it, that's what you get. No tech, no AC, standard brakes, and maybe even like a light coat of clear coat primer just to finish it off. So if you want a Mustang that's just nothing more than a drag car and you spend $30,000, $35,000 on it because it has nothing else, why not? Why not have that option? You'll still be able to get a Mustang GT that has the infotainment system and a 10-speed automatic that has all the buttons and bells and whistles. That's still an option. But also having an option that costs very little to make, that has only so many features in it, and selling for a very low dollar, I think that would be an absolute hit. And I know what some of you are saying. The logistics towards doing this don't make sense. Because yeah, changing engines or putting different wheels, tires, brakes, suspension on a car, that's not too difficult. Even removing the infotainment system wouldn't be that big of a job. But things like AC, that's right into the bowels of the car. So what do? So in my opinion, for the base custom cars, you take pre-orders way in advance. And let's just say there's 15 psychotic people out there that option for no AC in their Mustang to save weight. Then the AC division, the AC team that installs that on every engine, are just instructed to not install it. Do nothing. And yeah, that means you'd also need to remove the AC compressor off the engine and make a new belt for it, but that wouldn't be that difficult. That's creating one new belt. This is all doable. I'm using Ford with this because I don't really think Cadillac needs to do something like this, and until Dodge really figures out their new Charger, I'm not counting them in this. Although Dodge could also pull this off really easily. This can be done, and I know it's a bit of a risk to do this, but if things aren't selling very well, or as well as they should be, it's probably time to take that risk. But I want to know, what do you think? Do you think this is something that Ford or any other manufacturer could actually pull off? And because we're talking about Mustangs a lot, I want to know how you would spec your dream Mustang with the idea of being able to upgrade or downgrade things as you like. Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, subscribe, enjoyed what you've seen. I tend to post a couple times a week, and I'll see you later.